Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 29th May 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We will be covering 5 topics, each topic from internal security, environment, health, science, and a topic from culture. So with this, straight away, let us move to our first article of the day. First topic, alarming turn. The editorial talks about the violence that has escalated once again in the state of Manipur. The editorial in its later part has provided with a suggestion to bring back normalcy. Here the author is saying that state government must act together with the help of the center and increase the patrolling of paramilitary and police forces in the riot-torn areas. Then state governments should also provide relief to displaced people and curtail the influence of militant section in the state. These are few suggestions that are listed, but first of all, let us all know why there is an increase or why there is an occurrence of violence and riot in the Manipur state. So in this discussion, let us know about the issue in chronological order. See, in the year 2012, Scheduled Tribe Demand Committee of Manipur began demanding ST status for Métis. So taking their demand into consideration, in the year 2013, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has sent a letter to Manipur government to come up with a recommendation related to the demand of Métis people. In that, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has asked the Manipur government to present the recommendation along with the latest socio-economic survey and ethnographic report. So based on this report and data only, the central government will take a decision whether to grant ST status to Métis or not. Then after this, there was a representation made by Scheduled Tribe Demand Committee of Manipur insisting the state government of Manipur to grant ST status. These things happened 10 years back. But recently, a petition was filed in the High Courts demanding ST status to Métis. And now, the High Court took note of letter sent by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in the year 2013, and the High Court is directing the Union government to pursue the recommendation to grant ST status to non-tribal Métis community. This has led to the problem among the present ST communities living in the state of Manipur. So from this discussion, let us know about Métis and about the STs and the benefit that scheduled tribes can claim from the Constitution of India. First is regarding the Métis community. See, Métis are the largest community residing in the state of Manipur. If we take the language, they speak the Métis language, which is officially called Manipuri. Know that the Manipuri is one of the 22 official languages of India and the sole official language of Manipur state. The Métis are primarily settled in Imphal Valley region in the modern day Manipur. This is the Imphal Valley. You can see here, right? These all the 4 sides are covered by hilly regions, and the center valley is what we call as Imphal Valley. It is where the Métis people reside. Sizable population has settled in other Indian states of Assam, Tripura, Nagaland, Meghalaya and Mizoram as well. There is also a notable presence of Métis in the neighboring countries of Myanmar and Bangladesh also. They have divided into clans where the members of these clans do not intermarry. If we take the religion, a majority follow Hinduism while more than 8% are Muslims who are locally called as Pangals. The various types of festivals that are most significant and celebrated with great joy by Métis are Lai Haroba, Chairoba, Yosang, among others. The Manipuri martial art named Tang Ta is a combative sports which had its origin in Métis Knights during the King's rule. That is all about Métis. At the time of independence, the framers of the constitution noted that certain tribal communities in India were suffering from extreme socio-educational and economic backwardness. The backwardness was on the account of primitive agricultural practices, lack of infrastructural facilities, and geographical isolation. So, in order to uplift such communities, robust provisions were made in the Constitution of India. Let us see that one by one. The first is the Article 366 of Indian Constitution. This article prescribes scheduled tribes. According to the article, scheduled tribe means such tribes or tribal communities as deemed under the Article 342 of the Constitution. The Article 342 states that President may specify the tribes or tribal communities which shall be deemed to be scheduled tribes in relation to that state or union territory. So, we can see the power to grant ST status to a community rests with President only. Here you must know President will be aided by the advice of Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. Know that scheduled tribes constitute approximately 8.6% of Indian population. There are over 705 scheduled tribes notified under the Article 342 of Constitution of India. Next provision is with respect to the Article 15, provisions to prohibit discrimination. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on the grounds of race, religion, caste, sex or place of birth. Similarly, under Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, untouchability has been abolished. Then Article 16. This pertains to equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. And there is an Article 46 that promotes educational and economic interest of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections. Then another most important article is the Article 19 of 5. Under this article, special restrictions may be imposed by the state on freedom of movement and residence for the protection of scheduled tribes' interest. So in our case, if the Meitei people are added to ST list, then they will be provided with an opportunity to move and settle in the hilly regions of Manipur, which is currently prohibited. This is one of the reasons why scheduled tribe people of Manipur are protesting against granting ST status to Meiteis. And then there is Article 330 and 332. It reserves seats for scheduled tribes in Lok Sabha and in legislative assemblies of the state, thus granting them representation to safeguard their rights and interests. Areas where scheduled tribes are numerically dominant, two distinct administrative arrangements have been provided for them in the Constitution. They are the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. The 5th schedule of the Constitution deals with administration and control of scheduled areas as well as scheduled tribes residing in any state. But states except Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram comes under 5th schedule. It provides, that is the 5th schedule provides for the establishment of Tribes Advisory Council in any states having scheduled areas. And in these states, the Grama Sabha is highly empowered to take decisions regarding the land management, forest rights, minor forest produce, etc. The states with 5th scheduled areas are Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan and Telangana. Now, if we take the 6th schedule, the 6th schedule of the Constitution provides for administration of tribal areas in 4 states. They are Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. This is made to safeguard the rights of tribal population in these states. The 6th schedule provides for autonomy in the administration of these areas through autonomous district councils. Last provision is regarding the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. Article 338A calls for establishing NCST. The role of the commission includes like investigating matters related to the safeguards provided to scheduled tribes. Then the NCST inquires into specific complaints with respect to the deprivation of rights of scheduled tribes. Then the commission will also take into account on advising planning process of socio-economic development of STs. So these are few functions of the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes that takes into account the safeguards of scheduled tribe community provided under the Constitution. So these are the benefits that a community can get when they are listed in the scheduled tribe status. So from this discussion, we saw about Meitei community. and about scheduled tribes and the constitutional provisions related to scheduled tribes. With this, let us close this topic and move to the second topic. Second topic, shrinking snow cover continues to haunt Himachal Pradesh. The news article reports that there is a gradual reduction in snow cover in the state of Himachal Pradesh, which is said to be a ecologically fragile region. The reason behind the reduction in snowfall is said to be climate change factor. Factually, if you see, in the last winter period, the total area under snow cover in Himachal Pradesh had an overall reduction of about 14% when compared to the year 2021 to 22. Here we have to know that Himachal Pradesh receives winter precipitation in the form of snow in the higher altitudes. And moreover, most of the major rivers like Chenab, Bias, Ravi, Satluj, Spiti and their perennial tributaries that originate from the Himalayas depend on the seasonal snow cover for their discharge. So when there is a reduction in snow cover due to climate change, even the flow of perennial rivers are said to be affected. And studies are showing that glaciers in the Himalayas are retreating. And these retreating glaciers added with depleting snow cover and glacial lake outburst floods are some major concerns in the mountain environment. This glacial lake outburst floods have been in news for quite some time. So let us know about that from exam point of view in a comprehensive manner. 2 years back also we had a news about glacial lake outburst floods in the state of Uttarakhand, where a part of Nanda Devi glacier broke off and flooded the Rishi Ganga river in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. It led to massive floods in the region that damaged many villages in its path, and the flood also wiped out 2 hydroelectric power projects on its way. Now let us see about the glacial lake outburst floods. See, GLOF is a type of outburst flood. It occurs when water dammed by a glacier is released. In other words, it is an outburst that happens when a dam containing a glacial lake fails. See, normally retreating glaciers like several of those in the Himalayas usually result in the formation of lakes at the tips. They are called as proglacial lakes. It is often bound only by sediments and boulders, and if the boundaries of these lakes are breached, it can lead to large amount of water rushing down to the nearby streams and rivers. There, it gathers momentum on the way by picking up sediments, rocks and other materials, resulting in flooding downstream. These glacial lake outburst floods have 3 major characteristics. There will be a sudden release of water, and sometimes this might be cyclic in nature. Then they are generally rapid events. They can range from a few hours to days, and know that they result in large downstream discharge in the river. This often depends on the amount of glacial lake size, level of the breach in the boundary of glacial lake. Now if we take the possible reasons behind the glacial burst, due to multiple reasons there occurs breach of boundaries of the glacial lake, like buildup of water pressure or structural weakness of the boundary due to increase in the flow of water. Then an earthquake or cryoseism can cause GLOF. During this, the boundary of the glacial lake will collapse suddenly and release the water of the glacial lake. Third factor is the avalanche. During this, the water in the glacial lake might be displaced by the avalanche of rock or heavy snow. Then volcanic eruptions, heavy rainfall or melting of snow, long-term dam degradation can also lead to glacial lake outburst. Other reasons include the collapse of adjacent glacial lake. In addition to these info, let us know about the Hindu Kush Himalayan region that is said to be ecologically fragile. See, the Hindu Kush Himalayan region is known as Asia's water tower. It has the maximum snow cover after the poles. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region sustains more than 2 billion people directly and indirectly. First, there are numerous glaciers in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. For example, there are 8,800 glacial lakes in the Himalayas, and these are spread across countries. Among these, more than 200 of lakes have been classified as dangerous. These glacial lakes can trigger the glacial outburst. Second is that the soil is getting loose in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. The large human settlement and human activities have resulted in deforestation and large-scale agricultural activities in the region. This intensifies the glacial lake outburst floods as there is no natural barrier to control the flood. The third factor is the global warming and climate change. These are one of the most important reasons for the glacial lake outburst floods. Global warming and climate change lead to glacial retreat and glacial fragmentation. That is, big glaciers splitting into smaller ones. According to the Hindu Kush Himalayan Assessment Report, even after fulfilling the commitments made under the Paris Agreement, 1/3 of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region's glaciers would melt and will potentially destabilize the river regime in Asia. Fourth factor is the heat island effect in Hindu Kush Himalayan region. The Himalayas are getting warm faster than other mountain ranges. This is due to increase in the use of reinforced concrete in building construction instead of eco-friendly traditional wood and stone masonry. This adds to regional warming and increases the number of glacial lakes or the water levels of glacial lakes. Fifth factor is the tectonic activity in the region. See, the Indian plate is continuously moving towards north about 2 cm every year. So, the Himalayas is rising about 5 mm a year. This makes the Himalayan region geologically active and structurally unstable. So, landslides and earthquakes will continue to happen in the region. This can also trigger a glacial outbreak. These are few characteristics of the region, and this is why any dramatic changes in the ecological character in the region is often reported in the news, because even a slight change in the climate or weather pattern can affect the region as well as millions of dependent population. So from this article we saw about glacial lake outburst floods and also about the vulnerability of Hindu Kush Himalayan region. With this, let us close our topic here and move to the third article. Third topic: menstrual health is a public health issue. This news article talks about the barriers to menstrual hygiene, and the author has also provided certain suggestions that can ultimately lead to improved menstrual hygiene. Let us deal with the topic menstrual hygiene in a more comprehensive manner. First, let us know why is there inadequate menstrual hygiene in India. See, inadequate menstrual hygiene management is partly a manifestation of cultural myths and discriminatory traditions which consider this natural phenomenon as a taboo. Many girls and women continue to be socially isolated during their periods. Their mobility is restricted and they are considered impure. The main reason for this taboo still being relevant in Indian society are the high rate of illiteracy, especially among the people living in rural backgrounds. Then poverty and lack of awareness about menstrual health and hygiene are also one of the factors for inadequate menstrual hygiene. According to the recently released fifth round of National Family Health Survey, the use of unhygienic menstrual methods of protection among women is almost 3 times that of their urban counterparts, which means the rural women are said to be practicing unhygienic methods of protection when compared to urban women. And women in the same age group with no schooling are almost 6 times more likely to use an unhygienic method, and those from the poorest wealth background are 10 times more likely to use an unhygienic method. Now, if we take the impacts of inadequate menstrual hygiene, first is the impact on health. The unsanitary use of menstrual products increases the vulnerability of young girls and women to fungal, urinary and reproductive tract infections, impacting their overall health and well-being. Next is the impact on education. See, around 23 million girls in India drop out of school every year due to lack of menstrual hygiene management facilities, which includes access to sanitary napkins, awareness of menstruation, access to clean toilets with running water and disposal facilities. So these are few reasons that lead to inadequate menstrual hygiene. Now coming back to the article, let us know about the barriers to menstrual hygiene. First point is that the focus of menstrual hygiene has often been on India's rural population, and it was for good reasons only. But however, India's large and rapidly growing urban population has been ignored, which is not the right step. Then the author is saying that field research has shown that certain group of urban dwellers face a range of limitations that affect their menstrual health. This is especially felt among low income groups. For instance, low-income group people are found to live in places that doesn't even have toilets, and they do not even have enough money to buy period products that are easily available in the local kirana shops. So not only accessibility, even the affordability of products are important. Then poor awareness, stigma, shame, lack of personal hygiene, difficulties in disposing pads are said to be other factors that are acting as barriers to menstrual hygiene. For all these things to be sorted out, the author suggests for awareness about menstrual hygiene among low income groups. Then the awareness campaign about periods should be integrated with efforts to address harmful social and gender norms. Only then the purpose of it can be achieved. Secondly, people should have the information and right to choose the menstrual or period products that they want to use. For this to happen, the government and NGOs should work together and make the period products available and affordable with information dissemination. Then lessons learned from states that are working towards menstrual hygiene should also be taken into account. She toilets in Telangana and Tamil Nadu and pink toilets model in Delhi provides safe, private, clean facilities with essential amenities needed to manage periods. So such measures can be promoted and adopted in other states also. Let us see what are the steps that should be taken to promote menstrual hygiene. Building clean toilets with uninterrupted water supply in rural schools. Then second factor will be like ensuring availability and accessibility of sanitary napkins. Thirdly, imposing mandatory menstrual health classes for both boys and girls can create an enabling environment for girls and prevent them from potentially dropping out of school. Then movies creating social awareness about such social issues can play an instrumental role in bringing behavioral change in society. The film Padman played a pivotal role in bringing conversations around periods and positioning sanitary pads as the savior. Likewise, movies that convey social messages should also be promoted. Finally, the government can also promote small-scale sanitary pad manufacturing units to make low-cost pads more easily available. It will also help in generating income for women. So these are certain suggestions which can be taken into account. So from this news article, we saw about inadequate menstrual hygiene, the reasons behind it, the barriers to menstrual hygiene, and also suggestions that can be taken into account for sorting out the problem. So with this, let us close the article here. Fourth topic, from prevalence in 8 states in the year 2001, dengue now a nationwide infection. The news article reports the spread of dengue across India and adds to say that the infection currently covers all the states and union territories in India. So from this context, let us know about dengue from exam point of view. See, according to World Health Organization, dengue is a vector-borne disease that is transmitted by the bite of an infected female Aedes mosquito. Know that the mosquito becomes infected when it feeds on the blood of a person who is infected with the virus. After about 1 week, the mosquito can then transmit the virus while biting a healthy person. Also, the dengue virus comprises 4 distinct serotypes. They are DEN1, DEN2, DEN3 and DEN4, which belongs to the genus Flavivirus of the family Flaviviridae. Another fact is that most cases of dengue occur in the tropical areas of world, including the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, southern China, among others. Know that dengue is a notifiable disease, but the case is required to be notified only when the confirmatory test has been done in the lab. However, there is no vaccine or specific medication for dengue fever, and so the patients should seek medical advice, take rest and drink plenty of fluids as preferred by the doctors. And as said earlier, dengue is a notified disease. No, a notified disease is any disease that is required by law to be reported to the government authorities. This will allow the authorities to gather information to monitor the disease and provide early warning of possible outbreaks. And the process will also help the government to keep track and formulate a plan for elimination and control of the disease. In less infectious conditions, it improves information about the burden and distribution of disease. The center has notified several diseases such as cholera, leprosy, plague, tuberculosis, AIDS, and measles among others under the notified category. Now let us see what can be done to reduce the spread of this increasing dengue infection. First is the disease surveillance. Effective surveillance of dengue cases is essential to detect outbreaks, to initiate timely and effective control measures. For instance, Singapore uses one successful model of mapping and analyzing data on dengue using geographical information system. This involves mapping the streets with dengue cases for vector densities. Second is strengthening the healthcare system. See, dengue mortality can be reduced by implementing early case detection. Health services must be strengthened to cope with the dengue outbreaks. Then training health personnel at all levels of health system is also important. Third factor is the effective planning. An effective plan should be prepared on how to tackle any outbreak. It is an important element of the overall strategy to prevent the dengue spread, and the plan should incorporate all the stakeholders. Fourth is regarding the effective vector control measures. They are critical to prevent dengue outbreak. Preventive and vector control interventions like awareness campaign, cleanliness drive is very much needed with the aim to reduce dengue transmission. The integrated vector management approach to vector control as promoted by the WHO should also be adopted. Then dengue prevention and control needs an effective intersectoral approach. It requires coordination between the Ministry of Health and other relevant ministries, government agencies, private sector, and even NGOs and local communities for effective implementation of the plan. See, dengue is endemic to India. An integrated approach is needed to tackle the epidemic. Then various casual factors must also be controlled. Like taking into account the Swachh Bharat mission is important to prevent dengue and must be used to raise awareness about dengue. Without collaborative efforts, fighting the dengue epidemic is not easy. So these are the measures that can be taken into account for effective implementation of plans to reduce the dengue outbreak. So from this news article we saw about dengue infection from prelims point of view, and also the measures that could be taken which could be covered in the mains aspect. So with this, let us close the article here. Fifth and the final topic, Kashmiri Pandits celebrate annual Kheer Bhavani Mela. The news reports the celebration of annual Kheer Bhavani Mela by Kashmiri Pandits. So from prelims point of view, let us know about the festival. And the article also reports that hundreds of Kashmiri Pandits paid their obeisance at the famous Rangya Devi temple in the Gandarbal district in Valley, and they celebrated the Mela here. So alongside the Mela, we will also be discussing about the Rangya Devi temple which is in the Gandarbal district. First is regarding the Kheer Bhavani Mela. See, Kheer Bhavani Mela is a festival that witnesses lakhs of Hindu pilgrims from across the country, largely with the presence of Kashmiri Pandit community. See, Kashmiri Pandits come to the famous Rangya Devi temple, which is popularly known as Mata Kheer Bhavani, and they worship the goddess Rangya Devi. Know that the festival falls on the auspicious day of Jyeshta Ashtami. Here the term Kheer refers to rice pudding that is offered to the goddess Rangya Devi. Also know that the color of the water in the spring around the Kheer Bhavani temple changes its color with the change in the circumstances of Kashmir Valley. This is also one more fact that is related to the topic. Now if we take the Kheer Bhavani temple, the temple is dedicated to the goddess Rangya Devi as said earlier. Know that the temple is situated 30 kilometers from Srinagar city, and it is one of the most sacred pilgrimage sites for Kashmiri Hindus. Know that the temple gets its name from kheer or milk or rice pudding that pilgrims pour into the spring inside the temple complex as an offering to the goddess. As said earlier, the water of the temple's spring changes color from white to red and black. Here note that the color of the water is said to predict the impending future. If it changes to black, it is seen as inauspicious or an impending disaster might occur in the future. Another important fact is that this Mela, that is the Kheer Bhavani Mela or the festival, is held at the temple every year. Know that this Mela is said to be the largest gathering of Hindus in Kashmir after the annual Amarnath Yatra. So that is all about the article here. So in this article we saw about the Kheer Bhavani Mela and about the temple associated with it. So you have to be clear that Kheer Bhavani Mela is associated with Kashmiri Pandits and it is located in the Jammu Kashmir Union Territory. So that is all about the article here. Now let us move to the previous year prelims question discussion. Now coming to the previous year prelims questions, today we will be covering 3 questions from polity. All the 3 questions were asked in the year 2020. So kindly listen to it. First question, with reference to the provisions contained in part 4 of the Constitution of India, which of the following statements is or are correct? First statement, they shall be enforceable by courts. Second statement, they shall not be enforceable by any court. Third statement, the principles laid down in this part are to influence the making of laws by the state. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The options given are option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C 1 and 3, option D 2 and 3. See, the part 4 of the Constitution here means the directive principles of state policy, which are listed in the article 36 to 51. We know that the directive principles of state policy are not enforceable by any courts. So first statement is wrong. So by that we can eliminate the option A and option C. And we must here know that the principles laid down in the DPSP are considered in the governance of a country. So it is the moral duty of the state to apply these principles while enacting laws to establish a just society. So the third statement is correct. The answer for this question is option D 2 and 3 only. Moving to the second question, consider the following statements. Statement 1 says, according to the Constitution of India, a person who is eligible to vote can be made a minister in a state for 6 months even if he or she is not a member of the legislature of that state. Statement 2, according to the Representation of People Act 1951, a member convicted of a criminal offence and sentenced to an imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified from contesting an election even after his release from prison. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The options given are option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, option D neither 1 nor 2. See, the first statement says a person who is eligible to vote can become a minister in a state. This statement is wrong because the eligible age to vote is 18, but to become a minister the age required is 25. So the first statement is wrong. Then the second statement says, according to RPA Act of 1951, a person convicted of criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified. This is also wrong because according to this act, if a person is convicted and sentenced to more than 2 years, then they shall be disqualified in contesting elections for 6 years since their release. So they are not permanently disqualified, but they are disqualified from contesting elections for 6-year period. So the correct answer for this question is option D, neither 1 nor 2. Then let us see some other qualifications to become eligible for a minister. First is that a person should be a citizen of India. Then second, he or she should not hold any office of profit under the government of India. Then if a person is not a member of parliament, then he or she should be elected to Lok Sabha or to Rajya Sabha within 6 months from the date he or she is appointed as a minister. So that is what the Constitution says. Now moving to the third question. Consider the following statements. The first statement says the President of India can summon a session of the Parliament at such place as he or she thinks fit. This statement is correct. Second statement, the Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions of the Parliament in a year, but it is not mandatory to conduct all 3 sessions. It says Constitution of India provides 3 sessions. This is wrong because it is by the parliamentary conventions that 3 sessions of the parliament are held in a year. So the second statement is wrong. If we take the second statement out, option B and option D can be eliminated. The third statement says there is no minimum number of days that the parliament is required to meet in a year. This is also correct statement. So the answer for this question is option C, 1 and 3 only. So with this we have come to the end of the news topics and the previous year question discussion. So with this, let us wind up the discussion. If you like the way I am teaching and if you can understand the concepts well, please give a like, share and subscribe to ForumIAS in various social media platforms for a further update.